Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Lambert, editor of the LVN newsletter, and this month we are shining the member spotlight on LVN members Andrea Christman and Debbie Leitner. Andrea and Debbie, welcome, and glad you both can make it today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Greg.
So, Andrea, we'll start with you. Can you just briefly describe your journey into the legal industry and what initially attracted you to come into this field?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, right out of undergrad, I ended up at a public relations firm that specialized in servicing law firms. At that time, the legal business development, legal marketing was pretty young, and it was a lot of opportunities. And so I started there, ending up going in house. I spent nearly 20 years in house, and I really had the opportunity to do a lot of different things. And that's what I love about legal. There's not a day that goes by working with folks in the legal field where you're not learning something. You're working with a lot of smart people who know a lot of stuff, and it's always a challenge to keep up. And so it was great being in house to have the opportunity to move over and do project management and legal operations and pricing. And so I think, for me, it was the challenge of always having something new that kept me in the legal field.
And what's kind of your main role as VP there at Post and Communications?
Yeah, so right now I work with law firms and legal industry firms, and I help them with communications consulting. And, everything that we do really comes down to communications, whether it's explaining pricing or managing large projects or, collaborating between in-house counsel and outside counsel. And so, you know, what I'm doing now is very much communications consulting, but it's kind of a little bit of everything that I've done all before in my career.
All right. And Debbie, I know everyone dreams of working and pricing in the legal field. So I'm sure that was your dream. What's your story, and how'd you end up at Catton?
Well, I didn't grow up in legal like so many of our colleagues. I did work in marketing and business strategies for a number of years for a variety of companies, but I found myself living and working in London for a global climate change investment bank, and I was leading the marketing function there. When I returned to the US, one of our DC-based attorneys reached out to me and said, I heard you're back. I'm now working at a law firm and we're trying to stand up a climate change practice. Why don't you come work with us? And I said, I don't know anything about law firms. I knew nothing. I didn't even know what client matter number meant. I literally was starting from a blank slate. And what he said to me was, if you were able to handle the investment bankers, you can handle the attorneys too. So I went in and I met with everyone, and I was just really taken aback by how smart and how capable and energetic everybody at the firm was. So that's sort of how I fell backwards into legal. And that was my first law firm. I worked there for about 5 years. And then I transitioned over to Catton. And in my time at Catton, I transitioned from marketing and BD and moved over to help launch the practice management function, which is now where I've been for the past 8 years. And I love practice management because it involves so many different things. I've loved the ability to kind of see behind the curtain and really understand the business side of how law firms operate, the economics, and we really work hard to really kind of pull all the administrative initiatives together in order to drive profitable growth for our legal departments. So I didn't expect to be here, but I'm really happy to be here.
Well, we could use a few more of you in the industry, I'm sure. So, Andrea, let me go back to you. Let's switch from work for a little bit. What's something that you enjoy doing outside of work?
Well, I'm very lucky to live in Montana. And so I enjoy all things outdoors, skiing in the winter and, paddleboarding in the summer. So everything I can to get outside.
And Debbie, how about you?
I live in Washington D.C., so it's not always as pleasant outside.
No skiing for you.
No skiing, no skiing. A lot of hot, humid weather. So I enjoy traveling when I have the opportunity, and I try to escape from the D.C. weather and get out of the country once or twice a year. But yeah, so traveling when I can, when the opportunity presents.
Yeah. Well, while you're traveling or while you're in DC, what's your favorite restaurant to go eat?
It's always a difficult question, but so I have two. One is there's a little restaurant. It's a really, really tiny place tucked away in upper northwest DC called Two Amy's. And Two Amy's has just the best Neapolitan pizza. So if you like that authentic Italian type pizza, that's where you have to go. There's no questions asked. I also really love Indian food, and we have a wonderful restaurant named Rasika that is just well beyond any Indian food that you've had before. So those are my two picks.
Yeah, I'm a big Indian food enjoyer myself. Andrea, how about you? What's good to eat in Bozeman?
That is a great question. So there is a little place downtown called Plonk, and it's a lovely little wine bar that has really good food, actually. And they actually have an Indian curry dish on the menu that's quite tasty.
Nice, nice. Yeah. So, Andrea, let me stick with you on this. Can you talk to us? How did you become involved in LVN?
So, well, as Debbie does, I has the background in marketing and then crossed over to the operations side. I have that similar background, and so, had been involved in LMA and then P3, and then had heard, and then was involved in Clock, and had heard that there was a new organization starting up that really wanted to bring all of the stakeholders in the industry together in a place that they could really collaborate openly. And so as soon as I heard that LVN was getting created and they announced it, I was at Eversheds at the time, and we joined and was able to get involved right away, and was really excited about the platform that we've been building since day one. So, and I was excited to be able to join. I think I was on the extended committee first, and then slowly get involved over time.
Yeah, watch out. No good deed goes unpunished, so you get drug into these things, but they're great. Debbie, how about you? How did you get involved in LVN?
My story is a little bit similar to Andrea in that I had been involved in LMA and T3 and Clock, and I work with Keith Maziarek, who is Catton's pricing and LPM director, and he's a founding board member of LVN. And so he very gently encouraged me in his very charming way to get involved and told me I would find a lot of value with the organization. So similarly, I got involved. I was part of the extended committee, and now and helping co-chair the marketing and networking committee with Andrea. And Keith is right. He said I would get a lot out of it, and he's spot on. So
Yeah,
a great
yeah.
organization.
Keith is as subtle as a sledgehammer, so
Yes.
I understand. I understand. So you both are on the LVNx 2024 Conference Planning Committee, and you're also co-chairs of the newly formed LVN Network and Marketing Committees. Debbie, let me throw this to you. What can you tell me about the objectives of these groups and what it's like working with the teams involved?
Sure. Well, I mean, we're tasked with kind of providing some creative input on the efforts that we can build to promote the conference, support marketing for the conference efforts. We're also really looking to generate ideas and activities to keep everybody really engaged when they're on site at the conference. It's not about just getting people to register and to attend, but once they're there, we want to make it as inclusive of a community as possible and really get people to understand and derive as much value as they can from the event. The committee, as you noted, it's a combined committee this year. Previously, the marketing and the networking committees were separate. So this year we've joined forces, and we are more powerful and creative than ever. And the committees are really full of talented and dedicated volunteers who really want to get the conference attendees to derive the most value as they can out of this great event. It's been it's been challenging, but it's been so much fun.
Yeah. And Andrea, what should members expect from the upcoming LVNx conference?
Well, I think that, every year the conference gets better and better. And really, this year the conference committee has a strong vision for really, providing a platform for folks to hear from thought leaders across the legal industry about pricing, project management, and operations, and really, hear from those leaders and start to develop new leaders and to connect people with the other folks that do their same jobs and help build their own personal networks. And I think that's what, I love about joining the marketing and the networking committee is that idea that we want people to come and then we want them to get engaged and get involved. And so, you're not just coming and listening, you're coming to join an organization that's really helping to drive the industry forward, to promote innovation, and to help us all to help lead our businesses.
Yeah. So do you guys have any behind-the-scenes stories that you can share with us about some of the details for preparing for the conference? Debbie?
Well, I mean, I think honestly, what I would say, and Andrea might have more interesting anecdotes, is just quite frankly what I've learned is that behind the scenes there is a group, and it's not a large group, mind you, of these volunteers who have been incredibly thoughtful about how to build a conference that appeals to and benefits professionals across the industry of the business of law. Because you have people who are working in-house at law firms, people who are working in corporate legal departments, people who are part of service providers and technology providers. It's an incredibly diverse industry with a lot of different areas that it's not easy to tackle it all and kind of draw these threads together. But I have to say that in a short few years that the organization has been around and that the conference has been around, the founders, the individuals like Andrea who have been there from the very beginning deserve such a huge round of applause for what they've accomplished. It's a very fun group of people. It's a very excitable group of people. And everybody's just really engaged and dedicated. And I think at the end of it, to underpin it all, is just remembering that this is nobody's full-time job. Everybody's a volunteer. But that's how much everybody really cares about driving the industry forward and bringing everybody together.
Makes sense. Andrea, anything to add to that?
I do not have anything to add. I think that was perfectly said.
All right. Well, Andrea Christman, from VP at Post and Communication, and Debbie Leitner, Director of Practice Management at Catton. I want to thank you both for coming in and letting us shine the LVN member spotlight on you this month. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.